Well, south of Turkey in Syria, a week on from the quake, aid is in some areas still completely non-existent. In Idlib, the wreckage has meant humanitarian access has been severely constrained, but there are other reasons. Few NGOs, apart from Medecins Sans Frontières and the White Helmets, are operating there. The UN's accused the rebel leaders who control the province of actively hindering the delivery of aid. And in an area still engaged in bitter conflict with the Syrian regime under Assad, who gets what has become intensely political. A short while ago, in an interview arranged by our colleagues at BBC News Arabic, I spoke to Muhammed Bashir, a senior minister in Idlib's de facto government. They're backed by hardline Islamist groups deemed as terror organisations by some Western governments. I started by asking him about the situation on the ground.
More than 4,000 martyrs have died until now, but this number is subject to rise. Many missing are not included in the number of victims. And we have currently more than 8,000 injured and people who need medical support. This earthquake has left us with many destroyed homes. Thousands of homes were affected, and around 1,000 homes destroyed, with more than 5,000 houses partially destroyed. We can say that more than 30,000 families were affected by this earthquake.
So you need everything. You need sniffer dogs, thermal imaging, heavy moving equipment in order to retrieve bodies. But we understand the UN says that you're not prepared to let aid come through other crossings in Damascus-controlled territories. Is that right? That actually you won't take aid from Damascus-controlled territories, and yet so many people are suffering?
We never felt in northern Syria that there's a will from the international community or the UN to deliver any humanitarian aid. The regime in Damascus has been trying to use this disaster as a political opportunity to break the sanctions on it. People in the liberated areas say they would rather die under rubble or bombings than accept aid from the regime in Damascus. The Syrian people completely reject the regime.
So can I be clear here? You will not accept any aid unless it comes through from Turkey. You will not accept any aid despite the fact that people are suffering, despite the fact people are in hospital without treatment because of politics.
I've said that the people in the liberated areas, they are the ones who are rejecting this aid. The regime is the one who's bombed us and has been killing civilians through chemical weapons and barrel bombs. The regime is the one who is responsible for displacing and forcing people into our province. The regime is the one who's thrown people out of their homes across the regions. The Assad regime is the one who should be taking responsibility for the number of victims going up. The Idlib area is the most affected area by the earthquake. One of the reasons why the buildings fell down is not because of the earthquake, but because they were already bombed by the regime.
So, can I just confirm one thing? One of the reasons there has been a problem with aid in the past is because HTS has been accused of arresting foreign aid workers who are working in Idlib. Can you guarantee the safety of any NGO aid worker in Idlib for the foreseeable future?
At our Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, we're the only entity that's responsible for humanitarian aid in the liberated area. Our motto is to make the humanitarian aid easier for all the international NGOs. We've been in war now for 10 years and we've received a lot of humanitarian aid. We've accepted a lot of aid from the World Food Programme without any problems. We've been securing protection for them and any international organisation that's been coming into the region.
So the Syrian Network for Human Rights has documented many cases of intimidation, arrest and persecution of people in your area. Can you guarantee that any NGO worker will work safely? Can you guarantee their safety?
With regards to violations, I want to clarify that the Syrian revolution has been through many stages. There were many armed groups previously. They don't have any authority or an area to govern now. After the creation of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, we're all united and working through organisations. Under our new government, our Salvation government, there's been no documented cases of any abuses towards any international organisation or person working in a humanitarian organisation.
So I just want to ask you one more time before we finish. The Assad regime did appalling things. Nobody doubts that. The Assad regime did appalling things. But are you really telling me that children who can't get help at hospitals because there aren't enough X-ray machines, there's not enough medicine, there are children that have got terrible wounds, are you really telling me that you would rather see them die than accept any aid that comes via Damascus?
Why don't we ask the question in a different way? Why is the international community and the UN insisting to enter the aid through borders that the Syrian people are all rejecting for it to happen? Believe me when I tell you that the Syrian people all prefer to die rather than accept anything from this criminal regime. We have an open border at Bab al-Hawa accepting humanitarian aid. So why force these two options on the Syrian people? Either dying or accepting aid from a front line. Why do we put people in Syria under these two options? Is the blood of Syrian people so cheap to the world? In front of massacres, in front of barrel bombs, in front of missiles, and now in front of earthquakes, without delivering them any help.
Thank you very much indeed, Muhammed Bashir.